The night sky has always carried a quiet reminder that our world is far older and far stranger than we allow ourselves to imagine. Even in the soft hours when most stories fall asleep, the earth continues to whisper, offering fragments of truths long buried beneath stone, sand, and ocean. Human history, for all its proud timelines and carefully arranged theories, is still incomplete, full of blank spaces, quiet contradictions, and discoveries that rest uneasily in the hands of those who find them. Some discoveries fit neatly into textbooks. Others do not. And it is those uncomfortable findings, the ones that sit outside the margins, that haunt experts the most. For every well-lit museum hall and every polished historical narrative, there exists a parallel world of mysteries hidden in shadows, artifacts locked in vaults, research papers quietly withdrawn, and discoveries too strange to categorize. Not because they belong to fantasy, but because they belong to a version of history we are not yet prepared to understand. The earth has a way of keeping secrets until it decides the moment is right. When those secrets surface, they rarely do so politely. They disturb, they disrupt, and they remind us that time is not a straight line, but a vast ocean with hidden depths. Archaeologists, scientists, and researchers often speak of these enigmatic finds with a hesitant tone. Some call them anomalies. Others prefer not to call them anything at all. They are the discoveries that refuse to settle, the bones that appear too old or too tall, the structures that seem too precise, the objects found in geological layers that should not contain anything made by human hands. These are the discoveries that raise questions no one can answer without reshaping what we think we know about civilization itself. And in the quiet spaces between certainty and doubt, a haunting curiosity takes root. Imagine holding an object that should not exist, something crafted with skills supposedly invented thousands of years later. Or imagine standing in a desert where the sands shift just enough to reveal the corner of a structure that predates the very idea of civilization. In those rare moments, the boundary between fact and mystery grows thin. These are not the inventions of storytellers or the fantasies of dreamers. They are real, physical, measurable, and yet they do not fit. They challenge the light of accepted knowledge with the shadows of an older, forgotten world. Throughout history, whenever an uncomfortable discovery surfaced, there was often a choice to make. Some scholars chose to investigate further, risking their reputations for the sake of truth. Others chose silence, believing that certain questions were better left unasked. After all, a timeline is a delicate thing. Move one piece, and everything else begins to tremble. But even silence cannot erase the existence of something that should not be there. Over time, these quiet contradictions accumulate like scattered puzzle pieces, pieces that hint at a much larger picture buried beneath the comfortable story we tell ourselves. The concept of forbidden archaeology is not about creating myths or promoting impossible ideas. It is about acknowledging the discoveries that conflict with mainstream explanations, the findings that sit in storage rooms awaiting re-examination, the artifacts that challenge the linear progression of human development. The forbidden aspect is not the discovery itself. It is the discomfort it creates. These finds do not simply ask us to adjust a date or revise a theory. They ask us to reconsider the origin of knowledge, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the possibility that humanity has lived through cycles we barely understand. There is a poetic quality in how the past reveals itself, sometimes gently, with a fragment of pottery emerging after rain, sometimes violently, as earthquakes expose ancient structures that were never meant to see the sun again. Each reveal is a reminder that the earth remembers everything, even when humans forget. The world beneath our feet is layered with forgotten stories, civilizations erased by time, and mysteries that survived against all odds. And yet, despite the silence of centuries, these remnants continue to surface, clues scattered across continents, calling to those willing to listen. As we begin this long journey through forbidden archaeological discoveries, it is important to move slowly, with humility, curiosity, and an open mind. Many of the findings we explore tonight exist at the boundary between the known and the unknown. They do not provide clear answers. Instead, they invite deeper questions, questions that drift like echoes across deserts, forests, oceans, and caves. The tone of this exploration is not one of sensationalism, but of quiet wonder. For in the calm of night, when distractions fade and the world grows still, we can finally hear the soft voice of the past rising through the darkness. This documentary will guide us through ruins older than recorded history, artifacts crafted with inexplicable precision, bones that challenge human evolution, structures hidden beneath oceans, and maps that remember coastlines from distant ages. Each discovery creates a gentle tension, a contrast between the certainty we think we possess and the mysteries we cannot dismiss. As we move from one anomaly to another, the narrative will unfold like a tapestry woven from forgotten threads, encouraging reflection rather than conclusion. And so, with the night as our companion and curiosity as our lantern, we begin a journey into the forbidden corners of archaeology. A journey into the questions that linger, the secrets that endure, and the discoveries that continue to haunt experts who cannot explain them away. The Earth is speaking. Tonight we listen. Beneath the vast silence of the Sahara, where endless dunes ripple like waves frozen in time, there are whispers of structures far older than the civilizations we associate with this land. Most people see only sand stretching into the horizon, but researchers who have scanned the desert with ground-penetrating radar know that the Sahara is not just an expanse of emptiness. It is a burial ground for forgotten chapters of human history. Each grain of sand hides a secret, and deep beneath those shifting layers lie shapes that do not belong to natural formations. Symmetrical foundations, angular corridors, and outlines that resemble intentional architecture. If those shapes truly belong to structures, then their existence predates not only ancient Egypt, but perhaps the dawn of civilization itself. For decades, explorers have shared stories of strange formations they encountered during desert expeditions. Patterns that seemed too geometric, lines that ran too straight. But eyewitness observations alone were not enough to challenge established timelines. It was only when satellite surveys and radar imaging advanced that these hints began to take on a more concrete form. Researchers mapping subsurface anomalies discovered what resembled buried complexes. Rectangular layouts, unusual cavities, even possible multi-chamber constructs resting beneath layers of sand that date back thousands of years. Some scans suggested massive stone blocks organized in a deliberate pattern, their orientation aligned in ways that seemed to mirror celestial paths. Yet the moment these findings surfaced, they were met with caution. Not denial, but a quiet hesitation. After all, if such structures were truly present beneath the desert, they would rewrite the narrative of human development in North Africa. They would suggest that advanced construction existed before the rise of the pharaohs. They might imply that a civilization capable of planning, building, and aligning monumental architecture once thrived, where today there is only silence. The idea is not impossible, but it disrupts a framework that scholars have spent centuries building. And so the details remain tucked away in fragmented reports, unpublished data, and research that pauses just short of certainty. The Sahara was not always a desert. It was once a green world of lakes, rivers, and savannas, a fertile landscape where people could build and thrive. This forgotten past adds weight to the radar findings. If a complex society existed during the Saharan Green period, then the foundations detected beneath the dunes might be the remnants of a lost city or ceremonial center. But because shifting sandstorms bury and uncover different layers unpredictably, excavation becomes nearly impossible. The desert protects its secrets with unbroken stillness and relentless movement, making any attempt to reach these structures a monumental challenge. Those who study ancient architecture point out that many early civilizations built large stone complexes not merely for shelter, but for ritual, astronomical observation, and social gathering. If similar structures lie beneath the Sahara, they may reveal a culture whose knowledge rivaled or influenced later societies. Some even propose that the early Egyptians inherited certain architectural principles from a precursor civilization now lost beneath the sands. The idea remains controversial, but the alignment of buried formations with solar and cardinal axes suggests intentional design rather than chance. Mainstream archaeology often avoids speculation, preferring the safety of verified evidence. This cautious approach is understandable, yet it leaves a cloud of uncertainty around anomalies that do not fit existing models. The potential structures under the Sahara belong to this category. They are not denied, but neither are they explored deeply enough to form a conclusion. The result is a haunting in the scientific community, a lingering awareness that something significant might lie beneath the desert, waiting for the world to be ready to confront it. Even more intriguing is how the Sahara is not alone in presenting these buried enigmas. Throughout the world, advanced forms of construction appear earlier than expected. Yet the ones hidden beneath the desert stand out because of their sheer scale and their complete erasure from memory. Civilizations leave behind pottery, tools, and burial sites. But whoever built these possible structures left nothing else. No artifacts on the surface, no inscriptions, no cultural remnants. It is as though time swallowed not just their buildings, but their entire identity. Some researchers propose that catastrophic climate shifts forced an ancient culture to abandon the region. The Sahara transformed from green plains into a desert over centuries. But for those living through the change, it may have felt sudden and devastating. As water sources disappeared, cities would have been abandoned, temples left behind, and knowledge lost. The sands, blown by fierce winds and shaped by unforgiving storms, would eventually bury everything. What remains today are only faint outlines detectable by modern technology. The contrast between what we know and what might be true creates a quiet tension that fuels continued debate. If advanced structures lie beneath the Sahara, why were the surveys not expanded? Why were certain reports never peer-reviewed or made publicly accessible? Was it lack of funding, lack of interest, or the overwhelming weight of what such discoveries would imply? These questions float around the archaeological community like unanswered echoes, softly unsettling the certainty of established timelines. Even without direct excavation, the imagery from radar scans is compelling. One formation, often referenced but rarely discussed, appears to be a large rectangular platform with internal partitioning, features more consistent with human construction than natural geology. Another shows parallel lines that intersect with right angles, a pattern not produced by wind or erosion. And yet, without physical access, they remain possibilities rather than proof. The idea of ancient civilizations older than Egypt or Mesopotamia is not new, but the Sahara findings give those ideas a new dimension. If validated, they could push back human architectural history by thousands of years. They could suggest that early humans possessed knowledge we currently attribute to much later periods. And they would remind us that history is not a linear progression, but a fragile tapestry, easily torn by time and buried by nature. As we move deeper into this journey, these Saharan anomalies serve as a doorway, a reminder that great civilizations may have risen and fallen long before ours, leaving behind traces that only the earth itself remembers. What lies beneath the desert might never be fully uncovered, but the questions it raises prepare us for even stranger discoveries ahead. For if structures can hide beneath sand for thousands of years, what else might be waiting beneath stone, water, or layers of time far older than we dare to imagine? Among the strangest mysteries in archaeology are not the ancient cities or the forgotten monuments, but the small, silent objects that seem to whisper of knowledge far beyond their time. These are the artifacts forged from metals that should not have existed when they were created, objects that appear to belong to civilizations with a mastery of metallurgy no one can place on the historical timeline. In the study of ancient metals, the rules are usually clear. Early societies worked with soft materials like copper, gradually learning the complexities of bronze, and only much later discovering the skill needed for iron and steel. Yet scattered around the world are pieces of evidence that defy this gradual progression, suggesting that at least some ancient hands held knowledge we cannot easily explain. One most famous of these strange objects is what we now call the Baghdad battery. Discovered in the 1930s near modern-day Iraq, it appears at first glance to be no more than a simple clay jar. But inside the jar, researchers found a copper cylinder and an iron rod designed in a way that mimics the inner workings of early galvanic cells. When modern scientists recreated the object and filled it with an acidic liquid, it produced a small but measurable electric charge. The device dates back roughly 2,000 years, long before electricity should have been known, studied, or harnessed. Some believe it may have been used for electroplating, others for medicinal purposes, while some remain puzzled entirely. What makes the object so compelling is not just that it works, but that its design seems too intentional to be accidental. Even stranger are the metallic spheres found deep within geological layers in South Africa. These small, grooved objects, often called Klerksdorp spheres, were discovered in rock formations estimated to be billions of years old. Scientists debate heavily whether these spheres are the product of natural processes or something crafted. Some argue for pyrite formation shaped by geological pressure, while others insist the grooves appear far too precise, too deliberate. Regardless of the explanation, their presence challenges the boundary between natural formation and ancient craftsmanship, causing confusion and stirring curiosity within the scientific community. There are also tools discovered in strata much older than accepted human timelines allow. In the late 19th century, miners in California found stone and metal artifacts embedded in deposits believed to be millions of years old. These finds were documented by reputable researchers of the time, yet the implications were so great that they were quietly pushed aside. The idea that metal tools could appear in geological layers long predating known human existence was too disruptive to investigate further. Reports were cataloged, archived, and eventually forgotten, leaving behind a silent record of discoveries no one wished to acknowledge. Another anomaly involves advanced metal alloys appearing in eras that should have lacked both the knowledge and resources required to create them. Archaeologists have uncovered zinc artifacts in India dating back to a time when zinc smelting was supposedly impossible. Egyptians crafted iron beads from meteorites, forging them with techniques that required temperatures their era should not have been capable of producing. And in China, bronze mirrors with extraordinarily pure alloys appear long before metallurgy should have been able to achieve such refinement. Each discovery stands like a candle in a dark corridor, illuminating a small piece of forgotten ingenuity. These objects create a unique tension in archaeology. On one side, there is the bright certainty of established history, a timeline supported by textbooks, stratigraphy, and centuries of academic study. On the other side lies the darker realm of anomalies, pieces that do not fit, findings that cannot be explained without bending or breaking the rules. Rather than dismiss these anomalies as errors, many researchers choose to set them aside, hoping future generations will make sense of them. Yet their presence continues to haunt conversations in quiet research circles, hinting at lost knowledge or forgotten chapters of human development. Sometimes, the discomfort arises not from the age of the artifacts, but from the level of craftsmanship. Precision-cut stone surfaces in ancient Peru exhibit tolerances that modern machines struggle to replicate. Some blocks interlock with such flawless accuracy that even a human hair cannot pass through their seams. While these are not metal anomalies themselves, they imply the existence of tools or techniques capable of shaping stone with near-industrial efficiency. If such tools existed, where are they? Why have none survived? And why do we find hints of advanced craftsmanship without the expected trail of technological evolution? Elsewhere, mysterious objects made of aluminum have surfaced from archaeological contexts far too old to contain a metal requiring modern electrolysis to produce. One such artifact, discovered in Romania, appears to be a wedge-shaped object with a composition nearly identical to modern aerospace-grade aluminum. Although some propose contamination or misdating, the uncertainty remains unresolved. And even if the object is younger than the layer it was found in, the question of its origin still lingers. Behind all these discoveries lies a deeper question. How do we handle knowledge that destabilizes the narrative we rely on? Archaeology, like all sciences, seeks to create order from fragments. But when a fragment refuses to fit, it creates unease. The quiet, steady confidence of historical progression becomes clouded by possibility. These metallic anomalies invite us to imagine civilizations experimenting with electricity long before the modern era, or craftsmen forging alloys using methods we have yet to rediscover. They do not demand belief in lost worlds. They simply remind us that the past may hold more complexity than we assume. Some researchers have proposed that these metal anomalies could represent forgotten experiments, small pockets of technological brilliance that emerged independently and vanished again without widespread influence. Human history is full of isolated sparks of discovery, ideas that bloomed briefly and disappeared in the turbulence of war, migration, or environmental collapse. Others consider the possibility that these objects belong to traveling cultures or lost trade networks whose traces have faded over time. Both explanations allow for a grounded interpretation without requiring a complete rewrite of history. And yet the mysteries remain. Why do certain artifacts appear out of chronological order? How did advanced metallurgy occur in societies believed to lack the necessary infrastructure? Why do some discoveries seem to appear, cause a brief ripple in academic circles, and then fade into silence? Each unanswered question creates a thin crack in our historical understanding, allowing a faint light to pass through, the light of possibility. As we continue deeper into these forbidden discoveries, the presence of impossible metals becomes a symbolic threshold. If objects can exist beyond their time, what else might lie hidden in places the Earth has yet to reveal? What technologies might be buried beneath layers of sediment, telling stories of forgotten brilliance or civilizations wiped from memory? These metallic anomalies gently open the door to a wider realm of archaeological mystery, guiding us toward subterranean puzzles and deeper layers of time where the boundaries between known and unknown begin to blur. Beneath the surface of our world lies a timeline written not in ink, but in layers of earth, each stratum a silent witness to ages long forgotten. Unlike human records, which can be rewritten, distorted, or lost, the ground beneath us preserves its memory with remarkable patience. Every inch of buried soil and compressed rock carries traces of life, climate, and time. Yet within this orderly layering, moments of confusion arise. Objects appear in layers where they do not belong. Tools rest in sediments far older than the societies capable of crafting them, and remnants of habitation show up in geological depths that challenge accepted chronology. These uncertainties create a quiet puzzle, urging us to look deeper, both literally and metaphorically. When studying the Earth's layers, archaeologists expect a kind of natural order. The deeper an object rests, the older it should be. This principle, simple and elegant, forms the foundation of dating and sequencing human history. But some discoveries resist this logic. Every so often, an artifact surfaces from a layer that predates its assumed origin by thousands, or even millions of years. These anomalies do not just trouble researchers. They linger in the back of scientific discussions like unresolved whispers. They hint at missing pieces, forgotten stories, or perhaps entire lost cycles of human, or non-human, activity. Consider the places where deep strata reveal charcoal remnants or signs of heat long before humans were supposed to control fire, or footprints imprinted in sedimentary layers that, according to geological dating, should not contain any trace of hominid life. Such discoveries are not abundant, but they are persistent enough to challenge the simplicity of our timelines. Some researchers argue these anomalies are misinterpretations, natural formations mistaken for human activity. Others suggest geological disturbances. Earthquakes, floods, volcanic shifts may have displaced younger objects into older layers. But even with these explanations, the sense of mystery remains. Deep underground, the absence of light creates an eternal stillness. Yet within this darkness, evidence of ancient hands sometimes appears, stone tools resting within layers older than the civilizations known to have used them. Such finds are often explained away by natural movement of soil, but the precision of their placement, the depth at which they are found, and the consistency of associated layers sometimes resist easy answers. These underground anomalies force researchers to confront the possibility that our history is not a straight path forward, but a fragmented mosaic with missing tiles. The Earth can preserve its secrets in unexpected ways. Caverns formed millions of years ago may contain signs of habitation or markings that resemble intentional artwork. While mainstream science often approaches these finds with skepticism, the imagery occasionally resembles scenes far beyond what one would expect from early humans, or from creatures predating them. Whether such markings are truly ancient art or the byproduct of mineral flow remains an open question, but the curiosity they spark is undeniable. This underground puzzle becomes more complex when we consider how geological layers shift over vast spans of time. The Earth is not a static archive. It bends, folds, moves, and breathes. Mountains rise, riverbeds collapse, and entire regions shift due to tectonic forces. This dynamic nature means that artifacts may not always rest where they were originally placed. Yet even with this acknowledgement, some anomalies seem too deliberate, too carefully positioned to dismiss. In many ways, the deeper mysteries of our world are not hiding in the artifacts themselves, but in the implications they carry. If a tool is found in a layer older than the civilization capable of making it, what does that say about the civilization, or about the dating of the layer? If a footprint appears in rock millions of years old, does that mean the rock is younger or the footprint older? Such contradictions invite a quiet kind of reflection, a gentle stirring of curiosity rather than immediate conclusions. As we travel through layers of time, the contrast between what should be and what is becomes increasingly striking. The upper layers of the Earth tell a familiar story, one of gradual development, of rising societies, of technological progress. But the deeper layers contain hints of earlier chapters, ones not fully preserved but faintly suggested through anomalies and fragments. These pieces may not be enough to reconstruct entire civilizations, but they are enough to remind us that our narrative may be incomplete. This transition from the surface world, where discoveries are abundant and documentation structured, into the subterranean world, where mysteries multiply and answers fade, prepares us for what comes next. As the journey continues, we will step into the dim chambers of ancient caves, where walls hold images that should not exist and symbols appear too advanced for their assumed creators. Below the Earth's layers lies a deeper realm of forgotten expression, a gallery of forbidden cave art that challenges everything we think we know about our ancestors. Deep within the Earth, far from the sunlit world, ancient cave walls carry stories older than any spoken language. In the soft glow of torchlight, these walls reveal images etched, carved, or painted by hands that lived thousands of years before us. Yet among these depictions of familiar animals, hunting scenes, and early symbolic expressions lie figures that should not exist. Images of creatures that vanished long before humans are believed to have entered those regions, shapes that resemble advanced tools, and sky patterns that map constellations with uncanny accuracy. These forbidden cave artworks create a quiet dissonance in archaeology, a tension between what early humans were supposed to know and what these paintings suggest they might have understood. In several caves across Europe, explorers discovered paintings of animals that science tells us were extinct long before humans arrived. Some figures resemble creatures known only from fossil records. suggesting either incredible accuracy of memory from traditions passed through unimaginable time spans, or something even more mysterious, direct observation. In the soft darkness, these drawings appear almost alive, their lines filled with intention and clarity. The precision with which these extinct animals were portrayed raises questions about who, or what, created them. Some researchers argue that the depictions might reflect myth or imagination, while others insist the anatomical detail is far too accurate to be guessed. Beyond the animals, there are humanoid figures holding objects that resemble tools far more advanced than anything known from those eras. In one cave, a figure appears to hold something resembling a long cylindrical object, not unlike a staff with a crafted mechanism at the end. In another, a carved silhouette seems to show a figure wearing what looks like a form of clothing or protective gear unusual for that period. While these interpretations remain speculative, the imagery is undeniably unusual. It suggests the presence of knowledge or inspiration, not typically associated with Paleolithic humans. Perhaps most compelling are the star maps. In caves such as Lascaux, the arrangement of dots around certain animal depictions aligns closely with known constellations, including the Pleiades and Taurus. The placement is not random. It mirrors the sky as it would have appeared thousands of years ago. Even more striking are the cave systems where celestial patterns match not the skies of the artist's era, but the skies of far older epochs, suggesting generational memory or a level of astronomical awareness that defies simple explanation. Some researchers propose that ancient cultures spent far more time observing the night sky than we assume, but others find the precision uncanny, especially for civilizations believed to be fully nomadic and survival-focused. What makes these forbidden artworks haunting is not just their detail, but their consistency across distant regions. Caves thousands of miles apart contain similar symbols, spirals, grids, hand stencils, and shapes resembling radiant figures. These symbols appear repeatedly, as if representing a shared set of ideas or rituals. While mainstream archaeology attributes these similarities to universal cognitive development, others suggest the possibility of cultural exchanges far earlier than accepted migration theories allow. The resonance of these symbols across continents creates a quiet suggestion. Perhaps ancient humans were more connected or more knowledgeable than we imagine. Some explorers have reported cave chambers that appear deliberately sealed, with artwork preserved in near-perfect condition. In such places, the air is still untouched by wind or time. One chamber revealed a series of humanoid shapes surrounding what appears to be a circular device, radiating lines like beams of light. Another cave system displayed patterns resembling complex geometric grids, far too structured to be ornamental. Whether these were ceremonial, symbolic, or records of events now lost to history remains unknown, but their presence deepens the enigma. Equally puzzling are depictions of the sky showing strange lights or objects not easily explained by natural phenomena. Some paintings show clusters of dots with tail-like streaks, reminiscent of comets or luminous aerial events. Others depict circular shapes hovering above groups of human or animal figures. While it is possible these are symbolic or mythological representations, their similarity across different cultures and periods raises intriguing questions about what early humans might have witnessed in their lifetimes. Not all cave art mysteries revolve around imagery. In some regions, carvings were created using techniques that seem advanced for their time. Certain incisions appear to have been made with tools far sharper than what was believed available, producing clean, smooth cuts rather than the rough lines typical of stone implements. These cuts resemble etching techniques known from much later metalworking traditions. If early humans had access to tools of unexpected sophistication, or if unknown artisans left their mark in these chambers, the implications would ripple through our understanding of prehistoric life. A recurring theme in forbidden cave art is the depiction of beings that do not resemble typical humans. Some figures have unusually large eyes, elongated limbs, or bulbous heads. While these could be stylized representations, spiritual icons, or symbolic portrayals. The consistency across multiple cave systems invites further thought. These figures often appear separate from the everyday scenes of hunting, gathering, or ritual. Instead, they stand apart, watching, observing, or interacting in ways that feel purposeful, as though part of a narrative we no longer understand. As strange as these discoveries are, they rarely receive widespread attention in academic circles. Many are mentioned only briefly in excavation reports or classified as unusual but unremarkable deviations from typical Paleolithic art. Yet those who have stood in these chambers, the explorers and researchers who have felt the weight of silence pressing on their shoulders, often describe a sense of profound unease. Not fear, but the awareness that something does not align, something about the past that refuses to fit into the tidy boxes of established theory. The darkness of caves holds a psychological power as well. When imagery defies explanation, the mind reaches for possibilities just beyond rational understanding. But these caves are not the playground of imagination. They are real places, containing physical evidence left by real people or beings. Whether those creators possessed knowledge passed down from forgotten ancestors, observed phenomena beyond our comprehension, or represented symbolic visions that held profound meaning in their cultures, the fact remains. The artwork exists, and it challenges us. The transition out of this realm of forbidden imagery leads naturally into questions of the artists themselves. Who were these early humans? What did they look like? What abilities did they possess? And most importantly, were they alone? If cave art reveals beings or creatures outside the expected human form, then the skeletal remains found around the world may offer deeper clues. As we leave behind the shadowed walls of ancient caves, the journey moves toward the bones and bodies that defy classification, remains that hint at forms of humanity, or perhaps something parallel to humanity, that continue to perplex experts to this day. Among the most unsettling archaeological discoveries are those involving the remains of beings who do not fit within the expected boundaries of human evolution. Bones and skeletons, tangible, measurable, undeniable, carry a weight that few other artifacts can match. When a tool is found in the wrong layer, or an artwork defies explanation, scholars may debate technique, symbolism, or misinterpretation. But when bones emerge from the earth, shaped by nature yet unmistakably crafted into forms that should not exist, they force a confrontation with possibility. These remains, scattered across continents and time periods, whisper of forgotten branches on the human tree, or perhaps entirely different forms of intelligence that once walked the earth. Some of the most controversial finds involve unusually tall or robust skeletons. In regions across North America, reports continue to surface describing remains of individuals far larger than the populations known to inhabit those areas. Early settlers, miners, and even local newspapers from the 19th and early 20th centuries recorded discoveries of skeletons measuring well over 7 feet, sometimes 8 or more. Many of these reports describe massive skulls, unusually thick bone structure, and features that do not align perfectly with known human groups. While mainstream archaeology often dismisses these accounts as exaggerations or misidentifications, the consistency of descriptions across decades remains difficult to ignore. Some skeletons were reportedly sent to institutions for examination, only to disappear from public record, fueling speculation about lost evidence. Beyond size, there are skulls that challenge classification entirely. The elongated skulls found in South America, Africa, and parts of Asia are often attributed to intentional cranial deformation, an ancient cultural practice involving binding the skull during infancy. Yet some examples differ in ways that deformation alone cannot explain. Certain elongated skulls possess cranial volumes larger than normal, unusual bone thickness, or sutures that do not match typical human development. In some cases, internal features such as the location of muscle attachments or the structure of the foramen magnum appear shifted or altered. These differences lead some researchers to propose that not all elongated skulls resulted from external manipulation. Some may reflect genetic traits belonging to groups whose origins remain unknown. Then there are the skulls that defy shape entirely. Skulls with features too unfamiliar to be dismissed as variation within a human species. The so-called Paracas skulls of Peru, for instance, exhibit elongated crania accompanied by enlarged eye sockets, unusual jaw shapes, and in some cases, sutures that suggest a different developmental pattern. While these remains do not necessarily represent non-human beings, they raise the possibility of undiscovered human subgroups, populations with distinct biological traits, perhaps originating from migration events not yet recorded in genetics or archaeology. In China, archaeologists have uncovered skulls with extraordinarily large brow ridges and facial structures that do not match modern humans, Neanderthals, or Denisovans. These remains appear to represent a lineage previously unknown to science. Their discovery hints at a past far more complex than the simple branching diagrams found in textbooks. The human family tree may not be a neat sequence of divergence, but a tangled web of interactions, disappearances, and reemergences. Some ancient populations may have risen, flourished, and vanished, leaving behind only fragments that challenge our sense of lineage. Even more perplexing are discoveries of skeletal remains that appear far older than the tools or artifacts found with them. In several regions, bones dated to unexpectedly ancient periods were located alongside objects requiring intelligence to produce. Such associations create a puzzle. Either the bones are younger than the strata suggest, or early humans possess capabilities we do not attribute to them. In some cases, the remains differ significantly from known hominins, too robust, too delicate, or too unusual to fit established categories. Perhaps the most haunting findings involve skulls lacking expected anatomical features. Some specimens exhibit cranial shapes resembling helmets or shells, with smooth curves and minimal facial projection. Others show jaw structures incompatible with traditional human diet and speech patterns. A few rare examples even feature enlarged chambers within the skull, prompting speculation about sensory capabilities or neurological development differing from modern humans. While these interpretations remain speculative, the remains themselves are real, documented, and impossible to ignore. One of the recurring themes in these skeletal anomalies is disappearance, either of the remains themselves or the institutions that once held them. There are documented cases where bones described in excavation reports are no longer accessible, having been misplaced, removed, or stored in unknown locations. Some attribute these vanishings to poor preservation or administrative oversight. Others wonder whether the implications of such remains were considered too disruptive, leading to quiet archiving away from public scrutiny. Whatever the reason, the absence of critical specimens adds to the aura of mystery surrounding them. In many ways, these unusual remains act as a mirror reflecting our assumptions about human history. We often view the past as a steady, predictable evolution from primitive beings to modern humans. But the bones tell a different story, a story of variation, of experiments in nature, of branches that grew briefly before disappearing. These beings may not represent lost civilizations or forgotten giants. They could simply be natural expressions of humanity's vast and underexplored diversity. Yet the consistency of certain traits, elongation, unusual cranial shaping, anomalous sizes, suggests patterns rather than isolated accidents. Some researchers propose that these anomalies might reflect interbreeding with unknown hominin groups. The discovery of Denisovan DNA in modern populations has already proven that unknown lineages once mingled with Homo sapiens. There could be other lineages still waiting to be identified, their genetic legacy hidden or diluted beyond recognition. If so, the bones we find may be the last physical remnants of entire populations erased by time. Others entertain the possibility of convergent evolution, distinct populations developing traits due to environmental pressures. High-altitude regions, for example, could favor specific cranial shapes or body structures. Yet this explanation does not address the most unusual skulls found in regions without such pressures, nor does it explain the sudden disappearance of these groups. As we reflect on these remains, a quiet realization emerges. The human story is not singular. It is a tapestry woven from many threads, some bright, some dark, some frayed or hidden. The bones we uncover, those that do not fit, those that unsettle, are reminders that our journey through time is far less linear than we believe. They invite us to question not only what we know, but what we assume we know. This journey through forbidden skeletal discoveries prepares us for an even larger question. If such beings existed, where did they live, and what kinds of cultures or structures did they build? As we move from bones to the possibility of civilizations erased by time, the path leads into a realm where myth and archaeology meet, where memories of ancient giants, forgotten tribes, or shadow populations may reflect more than symbolic storytelling. From here, the narrative gently shifts toward the vast landscape of lost civilizations, where human origins blur into legend and history begins to whisper again. Across cultures and continents, human memory stretches far beyond the boundaries of written history. Stories, myths, and ancestral tales have carried fragments of forgotten worlds for thousands of years. While archaeology deals in physical evidence, mythology preserves emotional memory, echoes of events that shaped entire civilizations before disappearing into the quiet gap between fact and legend. When we examine anomalous skeletons or mysterious artifacts, these old stories begin to feel less like imagination and more like distant recollections of civilizations that stood at the edge of human memory. Even though we cannot hold these civilizations in our hands, their shadows appear in the tales passed down through generations, whispering of cultures erased by time. Many ancient societies speak of an age when great nations rose and fell long before the ones we recognize today. Indigenous groups across the Americas tell of powerful peoples who built cities, cultivated lands, and eventually vanished after great floods or celestial disturbances. Similar tales appear in African folklore, describing earlier tribes wiped away by drought or swallowed by shifting earth. In Asia and the Pacific Islands, mythologies recount advanced ancestors who possessed knowledge now considered lost, from navigation techniques to architectural mastery. These stories often include details, specific alignments, unusual technologies, catastrophic endings that resemble themes echoed in archaeological anomalies. What makes these myths especially compelling is how they align across cultures separated by oceans and centuries. Civilizations that never interacted somehow share motifs of an earlier golden age, often associated with beings taller, stronger, or more skilled than later generations. Some legends describe master builders capable of shaping stone as though it were clay, or astronomer priests who track celestial cycles with extraordinary precision. While these descriptions may be symbolic, they resonate eerily with physical evidence we encounter in enigmatic ruins and technological artifacts that seem ahead of their time. The bridge between myth and discovery grows stronger when we consider how environmental transformations reshaped ancient landscapes. The melting of ice sheets, sudden climatic shifts, and rising sea levels could have easily erased entire civilizations, leaving behind only fragments of their existence. Fragments we now uncover as anomalous bones, impossible metals, and structures half buried beneath forests or deserts. These catastrophic events, remembered vaguely in myth, may explain why certain stories share themes of destruction and rebirth. They could represent the collective memory of humanity watching worlds crumble and having to rebuild from scattered remnants. These myths often linger in a tone of reverence, as though the storytellers knew they were speaking of ancestors whose achievements surpassed their own. Some legends speak of teachers who came from across the sea or from the sky, bringing knowledge that shaped early societies. While these accounts are often interpreted symbolically, they carry hints of cultural encounters we have not yet identified. They may reflect migrations, lost trade networks, or the influence of civilizations whose remains have not survived the passage of millennia. As we listen to these ancient narratives, a soft tension grows. Are these purely symbolic stories, born from human imagination? Or are they memories, distorted by time, of real civilizations wiped from existence? The archaeological record suggests that humanity has risen and fallen repeatedly, with societies reaching surprising levels of sophistication before environmental or social collapse returned them to obscurity. The myths, then, may not be exaggerations, but echoes of these forgotten cycles. This reflection serves as a gentle pause in our journey. After exploring strange skeletal remains and the mysteries surrounding them, we now step back to view the wider picture, how the anomalies we uncover fit into the grand tapestry of human memory. Myths are not proof, but they guide us toward possibilities, helping us understand why archaeological puzzles appear in places where no known civilization should have been capable of producing them. They prepare us for the next stage of our exploration, where we move from legends of lost peoples to the physical evidence of their presence. From this point forward, we turn our attention to the stones, foundations, and massive structures that stand as silent monuments to forgotten achievements. Myths may provide the emotional memory of lost civilizations, but the megaliths, their walls, stairways, and temples, offer the physical memory carved into the earth itself. As we move deeper into the world of monuments that should not exist, the line between the known and the unknowable blurs even further, guiding us into mysteries built not from stories, but from stone. Across the world, there stand structures that challenge our understanding of ancient engineering. Monuments so old, so precise, and so deliberately crafted that they seem out of place in the timelines assigned to them. Their stones fit with uncanny accuracy, their angles follow celestial paths, and their foundations remain stable even after thousands of years of erosion, earthquakes, and shifting landscapes. These structures are found in deserts, jungles, mountaintops, and even beneath the sea. Although mainstream archaeology offers explanations based on ingenuity, persistence, and communal labor, some aspects of these monuments remain deeply puzzling. They possess qualities that should not exist in the eras to which they are attributed. One of the most striking examples lies off the coast of Japan, Yonaguni, a massive underwater structure carved for what appears to be a large sandstone formation. Its stepped terraces, sharp edges, and symmetrical platforms look unmistakably artificial, as though shaped by expert stonemasons. Some argue that natural erosion formed these features, yet the presence of right angles, repeating patterns, and large flat surfaces suggests otherwise. If Yonaguni is man-made, then its creators lived during a time when the region was above sea level, which would date the site to more than 12,000 years ago, long before conventional models acknowledged the existence of complex architectural societies in the area. The idea of such an ancient monument disrupts the accepted timeline of human development, pushing back the origins of organized construction by millennia. Further across the world, in South America, sit the silent stone cities of Peru and Bolivia. Among them is Sacsayhuaman, a fortress-like complex built with enormous blocks of stone, some weighing over 100 tons. These stones are shaped with such precision that they interlock perfectly without mortar, fitting so tightly that even a thin piece of paper cannot be slipped between them. The surfaces are smooth and contoured to match the curves of neighboring stones, as though molded like clay rather than carved by hand. The techniques required to create such flawless stonework remain unexplained, especially considering that the civilization believed to have built them, the Inca, had no known system of writing, no advanced metal tools, and no wheeled transport. Some theories suggest they inherited these structures from an earlier, more advanced culture whose knowledge has since been lost. At the ancient site of Pumapunku in Bolivia, the mystery deepens. Here lie massive blocks of andesite stone carved with extraordinary precision, clean, sharp lines, perfectly symmetrical cutouts, and complex geometric channels that resemble machine-made components. These shapes appear far too intricate for stone tools, especially considering the hardness of andesite. Yet they exist, scattered across a plateau more than 12,000 feet above sea level. Some pieces fit together like giant stone puzzle parts, suggesting an architectural design far more sophisticated than anything attributed to the region's early inhabitants. The idea of advanced stone shaping techniques existing thousands of years earlier than recorded history continues to puzzle scholars and engineers alike. These monumental anomalies are not limited to South America or Asia. In the Mediterranean, structures like Malta's megalithic temples challenge conventional views of prehistory. These temples, built from enormous limestone blocks, exhibit advanced understanding of geometry, acoustic manipulation, and astronomical alignment. Some chambers amplify sound waves in a way that suggests intentional design, while others align with solstices or star paths. The builders of Malta's temples left no written records, and their culture eventually vanished, leaving behind structures that remain among the oldest freestanding stone buildings in the world. How they acquired such architectural knowledge remains a mystery. In the British Isles, the story continues with stone circles, standing stones, and earthen mounds arranged with remarkable astronomical precision. While Stonehenge is the most famous example, many lesser-known sites exhibit alignments and engineering sophistication that require deep understanding of solar cycles, lunar patterns, and long-term celestial movement. The labor required to construct these circles suggests an organized society with complex knowledge, yet the origins of that knowledge remain unexplained. Some researchers propose that these monuments functioned as ancient observatories or ceremonial centers, reflecting a worldview deeply connected to the heavens. What unites all these structures, regardless of continent or era, is their refusal to align with conventional expectations of early human capability. They suggest planning, mathematics, and engineering skills that appear centuries, sometimes millennia, ahead of their accepted context. While it is possible that ancient cultures possessed intuitive knowledge that has since been forgotten, the precision and scale of these monuments often imply something more, a depth of understanding and craftsmanship that seems inconsistent with the tools and technology believed available at the time. Another layer of mystery emerges when considering the global distribution of these monuments. Similar construction techniques, such as Cyclopean stonework, appear in regions where there is no known cultural connection. The polygonal blocks of Greece resemble those of Peru. The terrace platforms of Micronesia echo structures in South America. The astronomical alignments in ancient Egypt mirror those found in Europe and Asia. These parallels hint at shared knowledge or a common heritage, possibilities that remain uncomfortable within traditional archaeological frameworks. Environmental changes may also hold clues. Rising sea levels after the last ice age submerged coastal civilizations, erasing evidence of earlier societies. If advanced builders once lived along ancient shorelines, their structures may now lie hidden beneath the ocean. This idea is supported by the growing number of underwater ruins discovered worldwide, from stone roads in the Indian Ocean to submerged towns near India's coastline. These findings suggest that monumental architecture may have been more widespread than previously believed, with much of it lost to rising water. Despite the mysteries, it is important to approach these anomalies with humility rather than sensationalism. The structures themselves are real, solid, and expertly crafted. Their existence does not demand supernatural explanations, but they do encourage us to reconsider the limits of ancient knowledge. Perhaps early societies were far more interconnected, innovative, and adaptive than we assume. Or perhaps we are missing key chapters of history, entire civilizations erased by time, disaster, or migration. Whatever the truth, these monuments stand as silent testaments to human or pre-human ingenuity. As the journey through forbidden archaeology continues, the question deepens. How did ancient builders know so much? How did they align their structures with celestial bodies, shape stones of immense hardness, or engineer monuments that still stand after thousands of years? Some of the answers may be found not in stone itself, but in the devices and tools ancient cultures left behind, objects that reveal knowledge far more advanced than expected for their time. From here, the path leads naturally into the world of ancient maps and navigational knowledge, where cartographers long before the modern era somehow charted coastlines and continents they should not have known. The monuments are the bones of forgotten civilizations. The maps, perhaps, are their memories. Together, they guide us deeper into the realm of mysteries that continue to haunt experts. Among the most quietly unsettling mysteries in archaeology are the ancient maps that depict parts of the world long before those regions were officially discovered. These maps are fragile, ink on parchment, pigments fading with age, yet the knowledge they preserve seems far too advanced for the eras in which they were drawn. They show coastlines reshaped by time, continents partially hidden beneath ice, and lands explorers claim were first charted centuries later. These ancient cartographers, whoever they were, appear to remember things that should have been impossible for them to know. Perhaps the most famous example is the Piri Reis map, created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral who openly stated he compiled it from much older sources. What makes this map remarkable is not just its beauty, but the information it contains. Alongside the familiar outline of South America lies a detailed representation of what appears to be Antarctica's coastline, but drawn as it would be without ice. Modern science only uncovered this ice-free coastline through 20th century seismic surveys, yet the Piri Reis map records it hundreds of years earlier, during a time when Antarctica had not even been officially discovered. For the coastline to be mapped accurately without ice would require knowledge dating back at least 6,000 years, perhaps more, an age overlapping with the end of the last ice age. This single discovery already challenges conventional assumptions about early navigation and cartography, but the puzzle grows deeper with each map added to the collection. The Orontius Phineas map of 1531 also depicts Antarctica ice-free, showing rivers flowing through its interior and mountain ranges that closely match modern scans. Another map, the Haji Ahmed World Map of 1559, portrays the Americas with surprising accuracy, including coastlines unfamiliar to European explorers of the time. And yet another map, drawn centuries earlier in China, appears to show a global perspective suggesting circumnavigation long before recorded attempts. The curiosity lies not only in the accuracy of these coastlines, but in the patterns of knowledge they imply. To chart a landmass requires observation from the ground or an understanding of global geography beyond what ancient cultures were believed capable of. Some historians propose that ancient seafaring civilizations may have been far more advanced than we assume, capable of long-distance navigation using the stars, winds, and ocean currents. Others suggest the possibility of lost maritime cultures erased by rising sea levels after the Ice Age. If such civilizations existed, their maps, or knowledge derived from them, might have been copied repeatedly, eventually finding their way into medieval libraries and explorer archives. The Piri Reis map includes notes written by the admiral, stating that one of his sources dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. If true, this would push the origins of the map's information even further into the past, suggesting the presence of ancient geographic knowledge preserved through generations of cartographers. Yet the accuracy of the southern coastlines, drawn without ice, remains a point of deep mystery. The last time Antarctica's coasts were ice-free was more than 10,000 years ago, during a period predating known civilizations capable of producing maps. How could ancient cartographers have recorded something that it could not physically observe? Besides Antarctica, these ancient maps reveal other curious details. Some show South America's eastern coastline with a precision far exceeding what explorers possessed at the time of their creation. Others include depictions of the Andes Mountains, interior rivers, and mountain passes that would not be explored for centuries. More intriguingly, a few maps appear to connect the continents in ways that suggest knowledge of global ocean routes rather than isolated coastal sketches. These hints of interconnected geography imply a worldview far more expansive than that of medieval Europe or early navigators. The phenomenon extends beyond world maps. Polynesian navigation charts, woven from sticks, shells, and natural materials, encode knowledge of ocean currents and wave patterns that allow precise navigation across vast distances. These charts demonstrate that ancient peoples possessed complex systems of mapping the world, even without parchment or ink. Although different from the maps found in European archives, Polynesian charts reveal a parallel story. Humans have long been capable of understanding the world in ways that modern scholars sometimes underestimate. Another intriguing parallel comes from ancient Indian texts describing mythical lands to the east and west, with remarkably detailed descriptions of coastlines and islands. While these accounts are often considered symbolic or mythological, they mirror places that only later explorers would document. Similarly, Norse sagas reference land across the Atlantic, descriptions that align with parts of North America. These narrative maps, though wrapped in myth, hint at real geographical knowledge that existed long before formal mapping. The presence of ancient maps depicting unknown or ice-free continents raises several questions. Were early humans far more widely traveled than historians believe? Did a forgotten civilization map the world before vanishing beneath rising seas? Or were these maps constructed through trade networks that exchanged knowledge across continents, slowly compiling fragments into complete representations? Even if we accept conservative explanations, ancient seafarers, lost navigational traditions, or geological memory, many aspects of the maps remain difficult to reconcile. How did mapmakers gain such precise longitudinal measurements? How did they understand the curvature of the Earth well enough to represent global proportions? These skills require mathematics and observational tools believed to have developed only in later centuries. As we contemplate these mysteries, a gentle tension forms between the delicate fragility of parchment and the vast, unchanging shape of continents. The maps are small enough to hold in one hand, yet they describe worlds spanning tens of thousands of miles. They remind us that knowledge does not always progress in a straight line. Sometimes it peaks unexpectedly, only to collapse and vanish, leaving behind hints of brilliance in the margins of history. Ancient maps serve as windows into forgotten knowledge. They invite us to imagine civilizations with navigators who charted coastlines later swallowed by ice, explorers whose journeys were never recorded, or scholars who preserved long-lost geographical traditions. These possibilities guide us deeper into the question of how ancient cultures across the world seem to share similar stories, symbols, and memories, despite being separated by vast oceans. From here, the exploration shifts naturally into the realm of mythology itself. How cultures across the world, from ancient China to indigenous America to Oceania, develop stories that mirror one another in extraordinary ways. These shared myths create an emotional cartography of their own, mapping connections across time, just as the ancient maps charted the continents. Across continents separated by oceans and centuries, human cultures have carried stories that echo one another with an uncanny familiarity. Whether whispered around fires, carved into stone, or woven into ceremonial songs, these myths form a web of memory stretching across the ancient world. They speak of floods that reshaped the earth, visitors who descended from the sky, cities swallowed by the sea, and civilizations that rose and fell before the ones we know today. When seen through the lens of isolated cultures, these stories appear symbolic. But when viewed globally, they become something else. Echoes repeating across distant places as though reflecting a shared origin or remembering similar events. In the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, ancient tales describe a flood so vast it swept away entire cities. In the highlands of Peru, indigenous stories recount a deluge that forced people to flee to mountaintops. In Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime narratives speak of seas rising and swallowing old lands. Even tribes in North America pass down accounts of a great water that covered the plains long before the ancestors settled there. These stories span thousands of miles and thousands of years, yet they describe the same event with remarkable similarity. Scientists now know that at the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose rapidly, flooding coastlines worldwide. The myths may not be mere imagination. They could be cultural memories carried forward through countless generations, transformed in a metaphor, but rooted in real catastrophe. Other myths reference beings who arrived from distant realms, teaching early humans agriculture, astronomy, or the arts of civilization. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl is said to have brought knowledge to the people before vanishing across the sea. In ancient Sumer, the Apkallu sages emerged from the waters with wisdom for humanity. Polynesian legends recount star-traveling ancestors who guided navigation. African traditions speak of visitors who descended during times of drought or darkness, offering guidance and structure. While modern interpretations often lean towards symbolism, the consistency of these stories suggests that ancient peoples may have encountered groups possessing unfamiliar knowledge or technology, encounters later remembered as divine or supernatural. There are also stories of lost lands, Atlantis in Greek tradition, Komari Kandam in Tamil lore, Lemuria in Pacific myths, and countless regional tales of kingdoms drowned beneath waves or buried under sand. These narratives vary in detail, but share a striking theme: civilizations rising to great heights before being erased by sudden catastrophe. Geologists now understand that shifting tectonic plates, volcanic eruptions, and glacial melt can dramatically reshape coastlines, supporting the possibility that certain lands once inhabited are now submerged. The myths may represent fragmented memories of real places lost to time. Symbols form another thread, linking cultures across vast distances. Spirals, radiant figures, serpents, and celestial motifs appear repeatedly in ancient art around the world. The spiral, for instance, is found in Neolithic Europe, Aboriginal Australia, ancient Mesoamerica, and early African carvings. These symbols could represent universal human concepts, life cycles, the sun, water, or spiritual journeys. Yet the precision and prominence of these motifs suggest shared cultural expressions that might have spread through forgotten networks of trade or migration. Even more curious are the parallels in mythic structure. Stories from ancient China echo those from South America. Tales from Siberia resemble those of the Pacific Islands. Civilizations separated by oceans describe sky battles, changing stars, and cycles of destruction followed by rebirth. Though these tales may have evolved independently, their similarities create a sense of unity, threads of a larger narrative woven into humanity's collective memory. This global resonance does not claim that all myths are literal histories. Instead, it reveals a powerful insight. Ancient peoples witnessed extraordinary events, natural or otherwise, that left deep impressions on their cultural identity. These stories, passed down through generations, may serve as emotional maps of humanity's shared past. While archaeology often focuses on physical remains, mythology preserves the inner memory of those experiences. The convergence of myths becomes especially important as we move into the next stage of our exploration. If so many cultures describe similar events, symbols, and visitors, then the advanced technologies and objects found in archaeological contexts might reflect the material traces of those ancient encounters. The myths act as connective tissue, guiding us from lost worlds of memory toward real artifacts and devices that should not exist. And so the journey continues, shifting gently from the shared mythic echoes of ancient peoples to the strange technological puzzles left behind, objects whose craftsmanship and precision raise questions about what early humans truly knew. From intangible stories, we now turn to tangible devices, built long before their time, waiting silently for the moment when someone would rediscover their purpose. Among the most intriguing archaeological discoveries are the devices and tools that appear far too advanced for the societies that built them. These objects, quiet and unassuming, often look simple at first glance. Yet when examined closely, They reveal a level of precision, engineering skill, or mathematical knowledge that should not exist in the eras for which they originate. They stand as reminders that history is full of hidden moments where human, or perhaps pre-human, ingenuity peaked far earlier than our timeline suggests. These out-of-time technologies create a gentle unease, not because they are impossible, but because they hint at chapters of innovation that were forgotten long before recorded history began. Perhaps the most famous example is the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. At first, it seemed to be nothing more than a corroded piece of bronze. But over time, researchers uncovered a complex arrangement of gears and dials that functioned as an ancient astronomical computer. The device could track lunar cycles, predict eclipses, and model planetary movements with astonishing accuracy. Its internal mechanisms, precision gears with interlocking teeth, rival the craftsmanship of 18th-century clockmakers, yet dates back more than 2,000 years. The sophistication of the Antikythera mechanism raises a profound question. If such advanced devices existed in the ancient world, where are the others? Was this a solitary burst of genius, or the last surviving remnant of a much older tradition of mechanical knowledge? Even older mysteries appear in the form of crystal lenses found in various archaeological sites. These objects, carved with remarkable smoothness and curvature, function like magnifying glasses or optical tools. The Nimrud lens from ancient Assyria, for example, may have been used for magnification or as a component in early scientific instruments. Some researchers believe it could have been part of a primitive telescope or used for detailed craftsmanship requiring precise optical control. The idea that ancient societies were experimenting with optics long before medieval scholars explored the subject challenges conventional assumptions about technological development. Another enigmatic discovery involves ancient laser-like stone cuts found in structures around the world. Surfaces at sites in Peru, Egypt, and other regions display precision so refined that the stones appear to have been sliced rather than chiseled. The cuts are smooth, symmetrical, and in some cases, perfectly straight. Modern engineers examining these surfaces note that such precision typically requires advanced tools, metal saws, diamond-tip machinery, or heat-based cutting methods. Yet these civilizations are not believed to have possessed such equipment. How they achieved these flawlessly cut surfaces remains an open question, sparking theories ranging from lost tools to forgotten techniques of stone softening or thermal fracturing. Another example of anomalous technology comes from ancient India, where texts describe flying machines called vimanas, mythical crafts said to move through the sky using unknown forms of propulsion. While these descriptions are embedded in deeply symbolic traditions, some interpretations suggest technological allegory rather than pure mythology. Archaeologists have uncovered metal objects from ancient Indian sites, made from alloys unusually advanced for their time, including iron pillars that resist rust for millennia. These materials suggest an understanding of metallurgy beyond what is typically attributed to early societies in the region. In Egypt, the precision of the Great Pyramid's internal chambers has long fascinated engineers. Some claim that the placement of the stones and the alignment of the structure demonstrate a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and geometry far exceeding what is typically assigned to the builder's era. Even more mysterious are objects found in tombs and temples. Small stone vases carved from hard materials like diorite or granite, hollowed with precision that challenges modern stoneworking tools. The symmetry and thinness of these vessels imply a level of mechanical control difficult to achieve without specialized equipment. In South America, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts made from metals requiring advanced smelting techniques. Some objects contain alloys involving high-temperature processes that supposedly did not exist in those cultures at the time. These discoveries raise the possibility that metallurgical knowledge may have been acquired from older or external sources and then lost through collapse or cultural change. One of the lesser-known mysteries involves the discovery of grooved stone spheres in Central America and Africa. These objects, perfectly spherical and carved with mathematical precision, appear to have been used in measuring systems or mechanical processes. Their purpose remains unknown, but their craftsmanship suggests deliberate engineering rather than decorative intent. Even more puzzling are ancient batteries and electrical devices. The Baghdad battery, already discussed in earlier sections, demonstrates that ancient people may have understood how to generate electricity. But there are also reports of electroplated objects from various ancient cultures, artifacts coated in precious metals using methods requiring an electrical charge. If electroplating existed thousands of years earlier than accepted, it would dramatically shift our understanding of ancient craftsmanship and scientific experimentation. What unites all these discoveries is not their mystery alone, but their quiet defiance of the timelines imposed upon them. They suggest that technological knowledge may not have developed in a steady upward curve. Instead, it may have surged in isolated bursts, moments of ingenuity that appeared suddenly, shone brightly, and then faded without leaving a clear lineage. These forgotten technologies may represent different paths humanity once explored, paths abandoned due to war, migration, climate change, or other upheavals. Some researchers believe that early societies possessed intuitive forms of engineering, knowledge derived not from written systems, but from long observation of nature. Others propose that ancient cultures inherited ideas from groups we have yet to identify, peoples who may have existed before the rise of recorded civilization. There is also the possibility that certain technologies were experimental or symbolic, used by small groups of specialists whose knowledge was not passed broadly through society. The presence of these out-of-time devices does not rewrite history, but it encourages us to look more deeply at the fragments left behind. Perhaps the true story of human innovation is not a straight line, but a mosaic of forgotten breakthroughs scattered across time. Each artifact becomes a message from the past, reminding us that the boundaries of ancient knowledge may be far wider than we imagine. As our journey continues, these advanced tools lead us toward a realm where the past becomes even more elusive. Underwater ruins, submerged cities, and structures hidden beneath oceans that rose long after they were built. If ancient people possessed remarkable technologies, perhaps they used them in places now lost beneath the waves. And so the path leads from the workshops of ancient inventors into the silent, submerged worlds waiting below the sea. Beneath the surface of the world's oceans lies a realm of silence where time moves differently. Sunlight fades into blue, then into darkness. And in that darkness rest the remains of cities, structures, and pathways that once belonged to civilizations now erased from the land above. These submerged ruins, scattered across the seas, stand as haunting reminders that the world we know was once very different. Long before history began to write itself, coastlines stretched farther outward, islands were larger, and entire continents shaped human migration in ways we can barely imagine. When the Ice Age ended and sea levels rose, ancient landscapes vanished beneath waves that quietly swallowed their history. Today, divers and researchers discover those memories hidden beneath the tides. Vast structures, stone roads, pillars, and walls that do not belong to natural formations. One of the most striking examples lies near the coast of India, off the shores of modern-day Dwarka. Underwater surveys have revealed symmetrical stone blocks, steps, platforms, and what appear to be remnants of a long-lost city. The layout suggests planned architecture, with streets and foundations aligned in deliberate patterns. Yet the age of these ruins, if confirmed, predates most known civilizations in the region. The city described in ancient Indian texts, a place said to have sunk beneath the sea, was long considered myth. But the underwater discoveries now raise the possibility that the stories may have been memories, preserved in legend long after the sea reclaimed the land. Farther east, near Japan, lie not just the formations of Yonaguni, but an entire network of submerged sites that imply a larger civilization once flourished along now-drowned coastlines. Massive terraces, pillars, and platforms rest beneath calm waters, their sharp edges softened only slightly by time. Some structures appear so precisely shaped that their construction suggests intention rather than accident. If these underwater monuments are man-made, they imply a level of social organization and engineering knowledge existing long before the accepted rise of complex societies in the region. In the Mediterranean Sea, ruins lie beneath the waters near Alexandria and in the Bay of Naples, remnants of ancient cities lost to earthquakes and volcanic activity. These places were recorded in historical accounts, yet seeing their paved streets, toppled columns, and statues resting on the seafloor creates a sense of profound stillness, an entire world frozen in its final moments. While these ruins belong to known civilizations, they offer a glimpse into how easily human achievement can vanish beneath the waves. If familiar cities could sink so completely, how many unknown ones might lie beyond the reach of written history? Perhaps the most extraordinary underwater site lies off the coast of Cuba, where sonar scanning revealed geometric shapes at great depth, rectangular formations, straight lines, and possible pyramidal structures. The depth at which they rest suggests they sank at a time when sea levels were far lower, potentially placing their origins in an age long before known civilizations in the Americas. Though research continues and debate persists, the idea that a lost architectural complex might lie hidden beneath the Caribbean stirs a quiet sense of awe. Natural formations or not, the patterns evoke the memory of cities built by hands long vanished. Even older are the sunken temples and stone circles found near Scotland, Scandinavia, and the Baltic Sea, some dating back to times when the surrounding lands were fertile plains rather than coastlines. These submerged sites hint at ceremonial or communal centers built by early societies whose world were transformed by rising waters. The gradual flooding of their homes may have been remembered through myth as great deluges or divine catastrophes, later retold across generations until they became global stories of a world cleansed by the sea. In the Indian Ocean, divers have discovered a series of stone structures near Tamil Nadu that resemble walls, pillars, and carved blocks. Local traditions speak of a vast ancient land called Kumari Kandam, believed to have been swallowed by the ocean. While these texts are steeped in myth, the underwater ruins suggest that at least some of their imagery may reflect memories of real places destroyed by environmental changes. The ocean, in its quiet way, stores these memories with remarkable patience. What makes these underwater discoveries so compelling is not just their physical presence, but the implications they carry. If ancient civilizations once occupied coastlines now far beneath the sea, then the story of human development becomes broader, older, and more complex than we assume. Many early societies likely lived near the water, drawn by fishing, trade, and fertile lands. These settlements, built over centuries, could have developed unique technologies, art, and architecture, only to be erased by the melting of ice sheets and rising seas. Their achievements, submerged and forgotten, now lie preserved in silence. Some researchers propose that underwater ruins represent advanced cultures whose existence predates the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley. Others suggest that these sites may reflect independent bursts of innovation that arose and disappeared without influencing later societies. Either way, the structures beneath the ocean remind us that history is shaped not only by survival, but by loss. The loss of lands, of knowledge, of entire communities swallowed by shifting climates. The ocean also preserves without prejudice. Wood decays, but stone remains. Buildings may collapse, but their foundations endure. This preservation allows glimpses into ancient craftsmanship, carved steps that still hold their shape, walls that stand despite centuries of currents, and stone pillars that remain upright even in the eternal sway of underwater tides. The resilience of these ruins suggests their builders understood their materials well, perhaps far better than modern assumptions give them credit for. As we consider these submerged worlds, a gentle sense of humility takes hold. Many societies rose along coastlines that no longer exist. Their stories, traditions, and innovations vanished without leaving written accounts. If these civilizations developed technologies or knowledge we do not recognize today, their evidence might lie in places we have yet to explore, hidden beneath layers of sediment and salt water. Each underwater structure becomes a window into a forgotten time, a reminder that the past is larger than the portions we have recovered. From here, our exploration moves naturally into the concept of preservation through time. Some artifacts survive against all odds, sheltered by environments hostile to decay. Others are lost entirely, leaving only hints and fragments behind. As we look toward the next chapter, we shift from submerged structures to objects preserved by accident, by miracle, or by forces we barely understand. Time capsules left not intentionally, but by the strange, unpredictable decisions of nature. Across the vast stretches of time, most artifacts fade, erode, or crumble into dust. Yet every so often, something survives, an object, a fragment, a trace, preserved in conditions so unlikely that its very existence feels like a message from the past. These accidental time capsules, preserved through peculiar circumstances, offer glimpses of worlds long vanished. They challenge our assumptions about what should endure and what should be lost, revealing that history does not always follow the patterns we expect. Instead, it leaves behind delicate reminders, preserved not by intention, but by the quiet, unpredictable decisions of nature. Some artifacts are found in peat bogs, where oxygen-deprived environments halt decay, preserving wood, textiles, and even human bodies with astonishing detail. In Northern Europe, entire garments have been recovered from bogs, their fabric still intact after thousands of years. Tools remain sharp. Leather shoes retain their shape. Objects carved from wood, material that should rot within decades, look as though they were crafted only years before. The bogs, cold and dark, hold onto these items with gentle patience, revealing craftsmanship and daily habits rarely seen in traditional archaeological sites. In deserts, the story unfolds differently. The dry air and relentless sun mummify organic material, preserving baskets, clothing, food supplies, and even footprints pressed into ancient sand. Some desert sites have yielded seeds thousands of years old, still capable of germination. Others contain wooden beams or papyrus scrolls that would have decayed instantly in human environments. These findings remind us that preservation is often an accident of climate, not a reflection of importance. The simplest objects may survive while monumental works vanish without trace. Then there are cases where volcanic activity freezes a moment in time. Ash from eruptions blankets cities, protecting household items, workshops, and everyday artifact beneath layers that both destroy and preserve. While Pompeii is the most famous example, there are lesser-known sites across the world where volcanic ashes captured life at the very instant catastrophe struck. These remains, encased in fine layers of mineral dust, allow us to witness ancient worlds as they were, interrupted but intact. Even underwater environments, despite their constant motion, can preserve objects if conditions align. Shipwrecks, for instance, create pockets where artifacts remain untouched by currents or decay. Some ancient vessels recovered from deep waters contain perfectly preserved ceramics, sealed jars of grain, and even ink pots with pigments still resting inside. At great depths, where sunlight never reaches and oxygen is scarce, the ocean becomes a vault, gently cradling artifacts that would dissolve in shallow waters. The most mysterious time capsules, however, are those that defy natural expectations entirely. Artifacts preserved in environments that should have destroyed them. Wooden objects found in humid forests should rot, yet some survive untouched. Metal pieces discovered in acidic soil should corrode, yet certain alloys remain intact. Some of these cases are explained through chemical anomalies or microclimates. Others remain puzzling, contributing to the aura of mystery surrounding ancient artifacts that refuse to surrender to time. What makes these preserved objects so profound is not merely their survival, but what they reveal. An unexpectedly intact object forces us to reconsider the narrative around it. A well-preserved tool may demonstrate complexity earlier than believed. A garment may show techniques assumed to belong to later eras. A ceremonial object may suggest cultural connections that historians have not yet traced. These items become quiet teachers, offering lessons from civilizations whose voices have otherwise faded. Yet there is also a humbling realization. For every object that survives, countless others have been lost forever. Entire libraries may have dissolved in damp air. Architectural wonders may lie buried beneath shifting earth. Tools, art, and everyday belongings, clues to technologies and cultures unknown, may have vanished without leaving a trace. The preserved pieces, then, are fragments of a much larger picture, reflecting only what chance has allowed us to see. These time capsules also invite speculation about what else might exist in places we have not yet looked. Deep forests may conceal objects preserved beneath layers of protective soil. Deserts may hide entire settlements beneath dunes. Under the sea, cities lost thousands of years ago may hold workshops, devices, or structures that have never been touched by modern light. Each environment offers different rules of preservation, different chances for ancient memories to survive. As we reflect on these preserved objects, a subtle transition begins to form. If nature has chosen to safeguard these fragments, what larger stories lie hidden behind them? What civilizations flourished before being erased by rising seas, shifting climates, or the slow turning of geological cycles? Some discoveries suggest that intelligence, perhaps even advanced intelligence, may have risen on Earth more than once, only to be forgotten by the ages. From here, our journey moves toward one of the most provocative questions in forbidden archaeology: the possibility that ancient intelligence predates humanity as we know it. The preserved artifacts act as stepping stones, guiding us toward deeper layers of mystery, where the origins of knowledge and the rise of early civilizations intertwine with whispers of forgotten worlds. There's a quiet but persistent question that emerges whenever archaeologists encounter discoveries that should not exist. What if intelligence on Earth did not begin only once? What if civilizations, advanced in ways we no longer understand, rose long before the cultures we recognize, leaving behind fragments of knowledge now scattered across impossible artifacts, anomalous fossils, and structures too old to place comfortably in human history? This question does not propose fantasy, but rather acknowledges the possibility that the timeline of intelligence on Earth may be more layered, more cyclical, and far older than the conventional narrative suggests. Some discoveries imply that human beings may not have been the first to shape tools, build structures, or experiment with early forms of technology. Others hint at the presence of parallel species, close enough to resemble us, yet different enough to vanish without leaving clear descendants. In deep geological layers, far older than the earliest known humans, researchers have occasionally found what appear to be manufactured objects: metal spheres with precise grooves, stone tools shaped in ways inconsistent with natural fractures, and even remnants of what look like worked surfaces. While mainstream explanations often attribute these findings to geological processes or misinterpretations, their existence sparks quiet speculation. Could an earlier intelligent species have arisen and disappeared long before humanity walked the Earth? Some fossils add to this enigmatic picture. Certain hominin remains discovered in Africa and Asia seem to possess traits that do not fit neatly into the human lineage. Skulls with unusual shapes, bones with unexpected proportions, features that hint at capabilities or adaptations we cannot fully reconstruct. These beings may have lived parallel to early humans or may have existed in eras far older than accepted timelines allow. Their tools, structures, or symbolic expressions might be buried too deeply to recover, erased by shifting continents or consumed by the relentless churn of geological time. Even more intriguing are signs of fire use, tool marks, and habitation patterns appearing in strata older than Homo sapiens or even earlier hominins are believed to have existed. Some caves contain blackened ceilings from ancient fires dated far beyond the timeline of human-controlled fire. Others contain stones arranged in patterns resembling hearths or workspaces, suggesting deliberate organization. If these dates are accurate, they could indicate that beings capable of planning and tool use inhabited the Earth long before humankind. Whether these beings were early hominins, unknown species, or a branch of life entirely separate from our own remains uncertain. Then there are the inexplicable stone constructions found in remote areas, seemingly carved and placed long before any known culture occupied those regions. Some monolithic blocks appear in geological layers, contradicting the age of the civilizations attributed to them. In certain places, walls and foundations lie buried beneath layers of sediment, too ancient to reconcile with the societies that supposedly built them. These structures suggest knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering far earlier than expected. They raise the possibility that humanity may have inherited certain skills from older cultures rather than discovering them independently. One theory proposes that civilizations rise and fall in cycles, innumerable ages of creation and collapse, each separated by global catastrophes that erase the traces of the previous world. Climate shifts, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and sudden sea level rise could easily destroy entire civilizations, leaving behind only fragments too scattered to interpret. If such cycles existed, then human civilization might not be the first to reach technological or architectural sophistication. The idea does not diminish human achievement. Instead, it places us within a larger, more mysterious story of Earth's ever-changing surface and the beings who inhabit it. Some artifacts seem to whisper of forgotten innovation. Perfectly carved stone vases requiring lathe-like machinery, advanced alloys appearing too early, astronomical alignments precise enough to demand long-term observation, and ancient maps charting lands long before their discovery. When viewed together, these anomalies create a quiet tension. They do not prove the existence of ancient advanced civilizations, but they make the possibility feel less distant, less speculative. They suggest that intelligence may have emerged multiple times in the planet's history, each cycle leaving behind faint traces of its existence. Consider, too, the myths shared across cultures, stories of teachers who arrived after great disasters, bringing knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and architecture. These figures, described as luminous beings, wise ancestors, or divine visitors, may represent symbolic stories. Yet their presence across global traditions hints at the memory of earlier societies passing down fragments of their knowledge to later generations. If the survivors of a collapsed civilization encountered early humans, they might have appeared godlike in comparison, leading to myths that endure even today. In geological records, there are periods where species disappear suddenly, replaced by new forms emerging in rapid succession. Mass extinctions shape life, but they may also shape culture. If an intelligent species existed prior to humans, their extinction could have been swift, leaving behind only durable materials like stone or metal, materials that could survive deep time but lose context along the way. Without written language or preserved records, their story would dissolve, leaving behind only a few whispers embedded in the planet's crust. The possibility that intelligence might not be unique to humanity opens new ways to interpret the anomalies scattered through archaeological reports. Perhaps the stone spheres, the metal artifacts, the footprints, and the strange skeletal features belong not to modern humans out of place, but to creatures that lived during an earlier chapter of Earth's long history. These beings might have developed early technologies, built simple structures, or even mapped their surroundings before being lost to catastrophe. Over millions of years, erosion, sedimentation, and plate tectonics could have erased nearly all evidence of their civilization. To entertain such possibilities does not require embracing extraordinary claims. It requires only the willingness to acknowledge that our understanding of deep time is incomplete. The Earth is more than 4 billion years old. Modern humans have existed for a fraction of that time. It is not unreasonable to imagine that other intelligent life may have arisen, thrived, and vanished within epochs so distant that the traces remaining today appear out of place or impossible. As we reflect on these ideas, a gentle realization emerges. The mysteries of the past are not simply puzzles to be solved, but reminders of how little we truly know. Whether or not earlier civilizations existed, the anomalies they leave behind continue to haunt experts. Not because they demand fantastical explanations, but because they defy easy dismissal. They invite humility, curiosity, and the understanding that history is not a linear path, but a vast, branching network shaped by cycles of creation and loss. This journey into possibilities prepares us for the closing chapter of our exploration. After traversing forbidden discoveries, impossible artifacts, and hints of civilizations older than humanity, we arrive at a place of reflection, a quiet moment to consider what these mysteries mean for us today. As we move into the final section, the narrative softens into contemplation, inviting us to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder rather than fear.